everyone, and welcome to another video. I am beyond excited today because we have a very special guest that you requested that I have here on Tech con Carolina, especially the Spanish-speaking community. He is a Bitcoin pioneer. He is the host of the Kaiser Report. Max Kaiser, welcome to the channel. How are you?
I'm great, Catalina. Thanks so much for inviting me.
It's a pleasure. I'm sure the whole community, the Spanish community, is excited for this video. I actually have a couple of questions from the audience from you today. So, Max, to get started, I would like to ask you, or for you to tell us, how did you get started with your show? You have been doing so for so many years. You have been translating into Spanish for so many years. How did you get started with providing value and wanting to educate the community, and how and why are you doing it?
The Kaiser Report. Well, the Kaiser Report, we've been doing it now on RT for 11 years, and when we started out, we talked to many different networks around the world, and only one network was going to allow us to have editorial freedom the way we needed to do what we wanted, and that was RT. So we started on RT, and in 2011 we started talking about Bitcoin. I had already been involved in digital currency since 1996 when I have a patent on a digital currency. It's really the first patent that covers digital scarcity. Of course, digital scarcity is a big part of the Bitcoin story. And we started covering Bitcoin in 2011 on Kaiser Report. And I would say it's been the background music for the entire Bitcoin revolution. Kaiser Report's been there every step of the way. So it's kind of like the soundtrack to the Bitcoin revolution is the Kaiser Report.
Fantastic. Are you going to continue doing it?
Why not? You know, it's especially in the Spanish-speaking world, the Spanish-speaking audience is just exploded in the last 5 years. The views on YouTube that of our Spanish, the dubbed into Spanish version, are off the charts, hundreds of thousands every single episode. We went to Mexico City just, before lockdown. We had a live event in Mexico City at the Bitcoin Embassy. And it was just a madhouse. People are crazy. They love the show. They love Bitcoin. We love them. We have a great time together. We do our live shows down there. And we've been touring Latin America recently. We were in Brazil and Uruguay, Mexico, and Colombia, Argentina, Buenos Aires. It's fantastic, right? So, the Bitcoin in Latin America we're really made for each other, because the people in Latin America understand that fiat money is never going to work. And they also understand that hard money like gold does work. And so this is better than gold. And so it's working out great.
Actually, Max, that is my first question. I heard that you got started with Bitcoin because of gold and silver. Can you explain to people what hard money is and why Bitcoin is hard money?
Right. Well, hard money is indestructible, and it's scarce, and it's desirable, and it maintains its value as a store of value. So gold fits the description, and so does Bitcoin. Bitcoin is indestructible, it's scarce, and it maintains its store of value status as a hard money, as money, and except that it has added benefits, that it's digital, it's portable, it's divisible, it's unconfiscatable. One of the greatest things about Bitcoin is that it's unconfiscatable. This is different than gold, because gold is, unfortunately, it's easy to confiscate gold.
All right, so a question that everyone requested from you: what is your forecast for the price of Bitcoin in 2020, let's say end of 2020? And what do you think about 2021? What can we expect?
Well, when Bitcoin was $1 back in 2011, I said it would get to $100,000. So I still think it's going to get to $100,000. And like gold, you have to understand that Bitcoin's price is really tied to the value of other fiat money. So when you say gold, for example, is making new all-time highs against the Argentine peso, the price of gold doesn't really move. It's the Argentine peso that's collapsing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when gold is making a move against all major currencies around the world, it's not because these other currencies, it's not because gold is making a move up against those currencies, is that those currencies are collapsing against gold. You know, 1 ounce of gold equals 1 ounce of gold. And if the fiat money collapses, then it takes more of that fiat money to buy 1 ounce of gold. In the case of the US dollar, I expect that the gold will make a new high against the US dollar in the next 6 months. And then it'll make a move, you know, much higher because the US dollar has room to become a lot weaker. And so gold and Bitcoin price would start to move up relative to fiat money, relative to the US dollar. I think the other interesting thing to consider is how is Bitcoin price going to move against gold? Which one of those is going to move faster? Well, I'm thinking about the comments recently made by Paul Tudor Jones, who's a very famous hedge fund manager. I used to follow him when I was on Wall Street back in the 1980s. And he said he believes inflation's coming back and he loves gold, he loves Bitcoin, but he thinks Bitcoin is the fastest horse in the race. So what does that mean? Well, if Bitcoin's market capitalization starts to approach gold's market capitalization, that means it's going to go from 160 billion closer to 10 trillion. So for every dollar that gold price moves up, you're going to see a Bitcoin move up $25 to $30. That's what that means, the fastest horse in the race. So to answer the question, you know, it depends on how much longer the U.S. government can keep the U.S. dollar on life support system. You know, the U.S. dollar is basically dead, and it's being kept alive with accounting tricks down there in Washington, D.C. And as long as those tricks that are being performed, and as long as the Federal Reserve itself is buying assets to the trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars worth of assets, then both gold and Bitcoin are being held in check. But this is a game that can never be played. Just ask any Latin American country. You cannot, you know, inflate your way out of debt problems. You have debt, you have currency collapses. And the U.S. will follow in the footsteps of Argentina and Brazil and Colombia and all these other countries that have had currency collapses. And if, not to pick on Latin America, there have been many countries that have had currency collapses. Russia, for example, has had several currency collapses.
Yeah.
And so you'd rather be, you know, you want to be, it's better to be 1 year too early than 1 day too late. Because people say, well, when is Bitcoin price going to go to 20,000 or 50,000 or 100,000? You know, implied in that question is, well, when should I buy it? And the answer is, don't try to time it. Don't be the guy who didn't buy Bitcoin the day it went to 50,000 in 1 day. And then you're like, oh, wow, I should have bought it. Don't be that guy. Own it now. Own it now and just keep buying it. Keep stacking every day. You know, I'm working with swanbitcoin.com right now. It's a great service where you can, you know, do your dollar cost averaging of Bitcoin every day. Buy $1 every day. Buy $5 every day. Just buy it every day. Don't even think about it. And then when the crisis hits, you're like, oh, thank God I was buying Bitcoin every day because now I'm the only solvent person in my neighborhood. Everyone else is bankrupt.
Yeah, that is a great message. And it's actually one of the messages that I heard from you that I wanted to highlight in this interview, that is that the price of Bitcoin is the least important factor of Bitcoin. And you highlighted all the features that why people should care about Bitcoin. And yeah, if you want to add something on top of that. focus
Well,
on
exactly.
education and the
No,
fundamentals.
the point about Bitcoin's price being the least interesting part about Bitcoin, I agree with that. That's true. You know, the more interesting aspects of Bitcoin would be the hash rate. You know, it's over a 100 quintillion calculations per second, and that's growing dramatically. It's also got 85% of the entire crypto market hash rate. That's going to go to 99%. I don't see any altcoins surviving really in any meaningful way. They're already completely faltering in every way. It's got 90% of the volume of the entire market. That number will get to 99% soon as well. And, you know, think about the technology of Bitcoin is insatiable when it comes to energy and when it comes to seeking greater hash rate, greater calculative abilities, which require more hardware, requires more energy. And it's really out of our hands. I don't think anything can stop it. Nobody can stop Bitcoin from gobbling up more energy, more CPU, more cycles per second. It's like a Godzilla monster that erupted out of the ground in 2009, and it's just knocking over buildings and taking over countries, and it's just changing everything, and nothing can stop it.
Question from the audience, Max. Maybe you can explain in more details why you think that altcoins will not succeed in the future, and why are altcoins different from Bitcoin? This is a question not from me, but from the audience.
Right. The problem with altcoins is that they're not secure. In order to be secure, they have to attract sufficient hash power to outrun the 51% attack in the case of a proof of work coin. In the two major forks like Bitcoin Satoshi Vision and Bitcoin Cash, they're both incredibly insecure. They can be attacked easily, not with hardly any money. They're not secure. And then, so no proof of work coin is going to have the ability to compete with Bitcoin because they're not going to, all the hash power that's available is going to be dedicated to Bitcoin because it's going to be the most secure and the fastest moving coin. In the other types of coins like proof of stake and these other types of coins, you know, they're not competitive. They're not competing with Bitcoin. They're different, completely different types of projects. They're more like interesting software projects. It's not even part of the same conversation.
Another question from the audience. I think you have already answered it indirectly, but let's do it directly for the people who want to know. How can you be so sure that Bitcoin will succeed in the future?
I'm sure Bitcoin will succeed because, you know, back in 1996, as I mentioned before, I created a coin when I started a company in Los Angeles called the Hollywood Stock Exchange. And I have a patent, a US patent, on a technology which is essentially tied to digital scarcity. And when I saw Bitcoin in 2011, I understood immediately that this solved a lot of problems that we were trying to solve back in 1996 in creating a digital, you know, value that it was impossible to counterfeit. And it does so in a distributed way, right? So this means a huge leap in the technology. And I recognize immediately that this had the ability to solve a key human problem that's been around since the beginning of humans. Humans, since the beginning of our existence, love to trade. We love to travel. We love to gather together, communicate, festivals, trading festivals. Humans are very social. We're social animals. And so money has always been the means to make society and the humans' interaction with each other across different countries and across time possible, right? So that's why gold became the perfect money, because you could have a social interaction with another human being that could span decades. It could span centuries.